All right. Hi. Hey guys, this is my very first live. I don't really expect a lot of people to come live today because it's been mixed up with me coming live yesterday and it didn't work out. So that's okay. I'm pleased to know that the video is recorded, so I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone. I am going to go ahead and remain live, but it is going to be recorded, so I'll have another video uploaded. But this is a really good one because it's kind of like a mixture of a lot of things that I wanted to always talk about. And I want to just go ahead and jump right into it. So I want to answer a lot of the questions that I've gotten in the comments that I put up a post yesterday and I got about 9 questions, maybe actually a little bit more than that, maybe like 13. So I want to go ahead and jump right into those questions. It's really important that I get those done because they're really good questions, right? So I just want to hop right into that. So for those who do not know me, let me go ahead and just do an introduction, right? So for those who do not know me, there's a lot of people who probably have no idea who I am. My name is Fagan Adams. I started this YouTube channel quite a while ago, but it really just started becoming consistent in the last year or so. I have 3 children, an 11-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. 2 girls and 1 boy. I am newly married. I just got married. June 24th is going to be our 2-year anniversary. I was previously divorced from my 3-year-old's father. So I did get married with 2 children, and then we had a third about a year ago. And I've just gone through some things. I've experienced a lot of turmoil, a lot of good things in my life as well. And I've just kind of used what I've experienced mainly to help people not go through the things I've gone through, help people succeed in ways that I wish I had someone to talk to me about these things when I was going through, when I was experiencing things. And so, this YouTube channel is really just me sharing my testimony. It's me being very real and very upfront. Mainly, thus far, it's been speaking on my divorce a lot, speaking on my remarriage a lot. I think in the Christian community especially, no one really talks about divorce. No one talks about remarriage. It's like a taboo subject. And in a lot of ways, that's really dangerous because then we're leaving our people, children of God, we're leaving them confused. We're leaving them open to hearing from the world when it comes to life situations, and that's never good. We need to talk to our own people. We need to pray for one another. We need to feed off of one another. Iron sharpens iron. And so we can discuss things with an open heart and a pure heart, free of judgment, free of condemnation. And I think when you do that, we can journey this life together. I often call this channel Journeying to Self because it is us journeying in this life together. And I think if you do that, any long journey, any strenuous, challenging journey is good and better when you're doing it with someone else. So with all of that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into this video. So this video is going to be a lot of questions answered, and I'm also going to veer off as the Holy Spirit leads me to. I do have a chat. Hey, hey, Kingdom Kid. I do have a chat, so questions can be sent. You can go ahead and type them in there. When I'm done with these, I'll go ahead and look through, and if there's any questions that I have not seen, I'll go ahead and answer those, okay? My husband was supposed to be with me yesterday. He was with me yesterday, but unfortunately, the live didn't work out, and we sat there, we recorded it, it wasn't working, so we're here now, and I'm by myself today. So he's with the kids at church, and I'm home with my 11-year-old not feeling well. So I'm gonna get this done, okay? So let's go to the first question. And let me know if that music is like disrupting and you can't hear. Okay, so the first question is, Though I have a question. So the question is, how did you get confirmation to leave your former marriage? And is it possible God puts you together with someone to grow them up? Thanks for that question. And thanks for that comment. That was a really nice comment. Alexa, stop. That was loud. Okay, so how did I get confirmation to leave my former marriage? So without doing too much of a backstory, I was in a very abusive relationship. I was in a very sad and tumultuous, challenging, very, very hard relationship. I was married to a narcissist. I was married to someone who was very, very mean to me, very mean to many people, but showed, he showed face to everyone else, right? So everyone else looking on the outside was like, oh my gosh, you guys are such a wonderful couple. You're a beautiful couple. He's so wonderful. He's a godly man. And he was very mean. He was just a mean, mean man. And the devil used him. The devil used him, tricked me into marrying him in a way where, when I say tricked me into marrying, I thought he was from God and he wasn't. And so because of that, I was naive, but I was also very young in the faith, and I did not know how to hear from God. And so when I was looking for a husband back then, I didn't think I was looking, but I was. In my heart, I was looking, and I was looking for a husband. The enemy sent me someone that was pretty much designed to just destroy me. Every hurt, every brokenness that I already had, he manipulated. He made worse. He used those things. And it's not so much him, it was the enemy. The enemy saw me as a target. I was insecure. I was desperate. And so he used that as a target, or he saw me as a target and used him to destroy me. Or tried to destroy me. So with that little of a backdrop, I do want to go ahead and answer the question. So the question being, how did I know to leave him? So for our entire marriage, we were married for 2 years. The first year was hard. It was hard from the beginning. It never was like, there was never a honeymoon stage. It was hard from the beginning. And so I can tell you now that I was definitely big on marriage. I did not want to leave. I did not want to get divorced. Divorce was just, he mentioned divorce in our first week of marriage. He got mad at me over something and said that he made a mistake. And so I remember being so hurt and so damaged by that, because I was just like, divorce? Like, no, like that's out of the question. That's the last thing. Why would you even bring something like that up? And I was very hurt by that. But I held on to that marriage for so long. I prayed, I fasted. We sought counseling. We did outside counseling. We went to the world for counseling. We went to our church for counseling. We went to his church for counseling, or my church, his church for counseling. We did everything we could possibly do. And all the time while I was in that marriage, I was staying prayed up. Right. So I did not ever leave God. I was actually drawn closer to God. Right. I was drawn closer to God, trying to save myself, because I felt like everything else in my life was falling apart. So the last thing I wanted was my relationship with God to fall apart. And so I felt like, if I can just hold on to you, Jesus, if you hold my hand through this, we can do this together. And I'm going to pray for this man. This man's going to come out, on top, and we're going to rekindle whatever it is. And I'm going to pray the evil out of him. Right. That was my focus. That was my focus, making sure that I was being strengthened by the Lord and by his power. But also my focus was, okay, help my marriage. What am I doing? What can I do to help him? And a lot of times what God would do, he would never really talk to me about my husband. He didn't. No matter how bad he was, no matter what he did to me, he never talked to me about him. Every time I went to God and I was in prayer about my marriage, he would talk to me about me. He would say, hey, baby girl, because I believe that is how he sees me, right? So he would say, why did you do this? Why did you not talk to him today? Why did you give him silent treatment? Why didn't you cook tonight? Things like that. But it was more like, I would be like, God, did you see what he did? Like, he took my car keys and didn't let me go anywhere. Like, he made me miss work. He whatever it was that he was doing, he called me out of my name. I don't have to cook for him. Like, I shouldn't have to do that. And God was like, no, you are going to do whatever it is that you're going to do as a wife onto me, not onto him. And things like that. And so it was very much God in my relationship, but not so much trying to heal the relationship. He was trying to make me whole, make me better, make me into a better woman. And I believe that even to this day, there's times where there's voices, and I know it's God ringing like that, the memory of the things that he's taught me in that marriage, I use in my marriage now. So with all of that, I stayed, I prayed, I fasted, I helped, I did whatever I could. We sought counseling, and it wasn't until we got separated. Cops were being called. It was really crazy. We had a really bad fight a few times, but one time cops were called. He ended up leaving. They made him leave the house. And a few weeks later, about a week later, I got divorce papers, and I held on to those papers, and I did not sign them until the very last day. And my reasoning for that was I didn't want to get a divorce, no matter how much I hated my marriage and hated what was happening to me inside, the suicidal thoughts and the depression. I did not want to get a divorce. I felt like that was me giving up. And so he was pretty much stalking me, calling me, messaging me, why are you not signing the papers? Why are you not signing the papers? And I would just ignore him and pray. It wasn't until the 29th day, I believe I had 30 days to sign the divorce papers. It wasn't until the day before the last day. He had called me that day saying, hey, you only have a day, but what's going on? And I went to sleep, and I remember just asking God that day, like, Lord, I need your help with this. Like, I will not sign these papers. If you just tell me not to, I won't do it. Like, if you tell me that you're going to fix my marriage, if you can give me any type of hope, I will not give up. And I went to sleep, and he gave me a dream. Without me going into the full dream, because I will do a video on that because I think it is important. I do believe that God speaks to us in dreams, but he did give me a dream. And in the dream, the very last part of the dream, and like I said, I will do a video on the dream, but the very last part of the dream, my ex-husband was standing at the top of a staircase, and he had a blow dryer. And I'm looking up at him like, what is he doing? And there was a figure on the wall. And when I got closer up the stairs, I looked at the figure, and it was me, but it was like a shadow of myself. I saw my features and everything, but I was plastered onto the wall, flattened onto the wall. And he was taking the blow dryer, and he would move the blow dryer. And every time he moved the blow dryer, my entire body would go into like this, not my body, but the figure on the wall would just be tortured almost by this blow dryer. And he would go this way, and the figure would move this way, he would go this way, and the figure would move this way. And I was like, what are you doing? Stop doing that. And he looked at me, and he said, don't think that what I'm doing is hurting her. She was like this when I married her. And I'm looking like, I can see what you're doing. Like, it's clear that it was weird that he would even it was weird that he would try to make an excuse for like, oh, what you're seeing is not what you're seeing. Because what I was seeing is very clear. And he's like, oh, don't worry about this. Don't fall for this. Like, don't fall for the shenanigans. She's just being extra. She was like this when I met her. And then he continued to torture what was me on this wall. And he wouldn't let me pass the stairway. And I saw an exit door. And I was thinking to myself in the dream, I said, Lord, I want to help her. It was me, but I was saying, I want to help her. And I said, how do I help her? I want to leave. I want to run away because I feel like he's going to hurt me, or I just felt in danger. And I said, I want to run, but I don't want to leave her. And I felt like the Holy Spirit told me in the dream that if you don't save yourself, you can't save her. And so I kind of crept past him and I booked it. I booked it through the door and I started running. And when I opened the door, there was some stairs. And so I'm going down the stairs, and I'm thinking he's chasing me, but he's not. What he was doing was standing at the top of the stairs, and he was yelling things like, you're never gonna be anything, you're never gonna find anybody like me, you're nothing. And I'm just running really fast. And then he would switch up from that to, okay, babe, just come back. I'm sorry. And when he would try to get sweet, I would slow down. And I remember like it was yesterday, the Holy Spirit said to me, and it was like almost audible in the dream. He said, if you stop now, he said, if you go back now, you will never leave. And he said, run. And I just ran down these stairs, and I was running for a while. And then the dream was over. And I woke up, and that on top of the first part of the dream, which was very intricate, the Lord used that dream to not only show me what to do about my marriage, but he used that dream to show me destiny. He used that dream to show me purpose. It was so many different things that he did to show me that dream. And he did that because he knew how important destiny and purpose was to me. And so, long story short, I ended up waking up, and I knew without a shadow of doubt that the Lord was telling me to leave the marriage. I knew without a shadow of doubt that he was telling me to leave the marriage. And so my divorce papers were on the nightstand, and I woke up. I promise y'all, I had a pen. I don't even know where the pen came from. I just was looking for a pen. And I signed that paper so fast because God knew that if he would have told me to stay, I would have stayed. If he told me to go, I was gone. And all I was waiting for was a word from God. All I was waiting for. I didn't want to move by my emotions. I didn't want to move by somebody else's, advice. I didn't want to be bullied into doing it by my ex-husband. So when I got that word from the Lord, I definitely signed those papers. And shortly after, maybe 2 months later, we were officially divorced. So I hope that answers your question. Most of these questions are going to have long answers. I do apologize, but I have to be careful. In the beginning of this channel, when I first started doing this YouTube channel, I was trying to keep it vague out of being careful. I was trying to be careful to not give too much information because I did not want to ever say anything that was emotionally driven. And I didn't want to ever say anything that could possibly steer someone wrong. And I take it very, very seriously when we're talking about kingdom children, when we're talking about God's kids. And I know that he wants me to do this channel, but I have to do it very carefully because I never want anyone to think that I'm advocating divorce. I never want anyone to think that I am anti-man. There's people who have said like, oh, well, you're just dogging that man out and blah, blah, blah. I've never even mentioned his name. Like there's no point in doing something like that. So, hey, you felt that part. Yes. And I know what part you're talking about. But yeah, so, I was very careful in the beginning. And so now I'm realizing that it's actually biting me in the butt to be too careful because I'm being vague. And what it's doing is it's leaving room for question and it's leaving room for misinterpretation. And so I have to be clear and as precise as I can be without making every answer an hour long. I have to be precise. So please bear with me. I hope I don't get long-winded and stuff like that because I can get long-winded. Another question I got is it possible that God puts you together with someone to grow them up? So that question is iffy because you have to be careful with that because what will happen is if you believe that God is going to put you with someone, meaning marriage, like God is going to marry you God is going to have you marry someone just to grow them up. what happens is if you really believe that, you'll start to accept anything, right? And so someone could be a non-Christian, someone could even be maybe newly saved, but still exhibiting signs of worldly behavior. There's different things, like someone could be operating in a whole lot of pride, a whole lot of selfishness, and you can look at that and say, oh, well, God is just going to use me to change him. And that's how I felt with my ex-husband. Um, there were things that he showed me in the beginning. He showed me himself in the beginning. There were red flags in the very beginning. So I can never say that I was tricked. I didn't mean to use that word earlier because I was never tricked. The Lord showed me him. And there's a saying, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Do not make excuses. Do not say, oh, well, it's my job. It's my duty to do this. No, I'm sorry. I do not agree with that. So to answer the question, I believe that you have to be careful with that. You never want to say that it is your job to do anything for someone else, because it is their will that will change them. They have to want to change. But on the flip side of that, I believe that my marriage to my husband grew me up. And so there were things that I was struggling with that it wasn't until I married my soulmate, the man that was created for me. He had the grace for everything, every issue I had, every nuance, he had the grace for that. So because of that, when we got married, there were things that he helped me with and he was graced to help me with. So no, I was not perfect by no means, and neither is he. So there's things that I'm working on him with and things that he's working on me with. So only you and God know, okay, is this something that I can help him with, or is this something that he needs to fix before he marries anybody? So I hope that answers the questions, but it's not really like a yes or no answer. It's kind of based on your relationship with God. So pray about it and wait to hear the answer. Do not pray and in your heart you want to hear, yes, this is him. Pray with a pure heart and open heart to hearing yes or no, maybe, stop, go, that kind of thing. Okay. So I had another question. So another question is, how did you know that your former marriage was God promised? And what steps did you take to prepare yourself for your new marriage? My former marriage was God promised. So I did a video on this. I did a video showing, it's called How I Married the Wrong Man, I believe. That was because I thought I heard from God about my former husband, right? So it wasn't that I heard from God. I didn't. I did not know God, and I did not know how he spoke with me. I was a new Christian. I was only married. I was only saved for about a year or two, maybe 2 years when I met my ex-husband. So I didn't really know how God spoke with me. I didn't know how to hear from him. I was praying. I was giving, but I didn't know how to receive, right? So I was talking and praying. And I think at the time I prayed in tongues. So I was praying in tongues, and I would get impressions in my spirit, but never did I really know, okay, this is how God speaks to me. And so because of that, I thought I heard an audible voice when I was asking God in my prayer time, is this my husband? Talking about my former husband. And I heard an audible voice saying yes. And I realized later that I did not hear God. That was not God, because we know that Satan imitates God. And that was Satan imitating God, taking advantage of the fact that I didn't know how God spoke with me. And so because of that, I thought that was it. God has never spoken to me in an audible voice before. In my dreams, I've heard his voice, but never through just communicating and talking with him have I ever heard his voice. I'm sure he will one day, maybe in maybe a dire situation, but that's not how he speaks to me. And so to answer that question, I never heard God. I thought I did. To answer the second part is, how did I prepare for my new marriage? That's a really good question. So if you guys do the math, right, I got divorced officially in June or July. I'm not sure. I want to say it was June. It was June or July of 2017. I met my husband. I knew my husband we went to the same church for years, so I knew him. He actually tried to talk to me back in 2011, but I was dating someone, and I was like, hey, I'm sorry, and he was so bold, and he just came to me and said, hey, I really feel, connected with you. I really want to get to know you. Do you mind, if I take you out? And I felt so bad because he was so sweet, but I was just like, I'm dating someone, and I don't agree with dating multiple people at the same time because it doesn't give anybody a fair shot. That's how I thought, and I still think that. But and he was like, okay, and like it was just awkward after that. Like for years, it was just awkward because we would see each other for years, and I just always felt so bad. And it's funny, side note, after the day that he tried to talk to me and I went home and I was crying. I was crying to God. And I remember just crying because I knew the guy that I was dating was not it, but he was just perfect on paper. And y'all know how it is. Like the guy is just perfect. Like he says that he loves God. He is successful. He's not like a deadbeat. He's good with my child. He was really good with my kid. He met all my friends. He wined and dined me. Like everything was just perfect. And I was just in my mind, right? I was a new Christian, and I was just like, oh my gosh, he's perfect. But I knew that was not what he had for me. And I remember going home just crying, and I was like, Lord, I want this to work, but I know that this is not who you have for me. And I knew that I had to let go, and I did not want to let go because honestly, I was just having fun. I was enjoying him. We were not having sex, none of that. I was just really enjoying the idea that this could be my husband one day, but I knew it wasn't. I knew he wasn't it. And I asked God that. I said, Lord, I know he's not it, so I'm going to break up with him. And this is in tears. I was bawling. And I was like, but if you send me someone, can you please send me someone like Ralph? Now, Ralph is my husband, and that was the night that he asked me out. I had seen him through church. He would praise God. I mean, arms lifted. Sometimes he would be on the ground. He was praying in tongues. He wasn't like, some guys go to church and they looking at everybody. No, he was just there for God. He was there early. He was leaving late. He was ushering. He was soundboard. I mean, he was just, to me, he was someone who I would want to be my husband, but I wasn't head over heels attracted to him. He wasn't my type. I was so carnal at the time. And said, come on. And so I was so carnal, I would be, I don't know, I would see him and like, oh my gosh, I love I love his personality. I love his character. I love everything about him, but he doesn't check off this and he doesn't check off that. So Lord, just give me somebody who has everything he has, but this, is 6'4", and it's just so dumb, right? So dumb. And so basically, after that, I forgot what I was talking about, but after that, I ended up breaking off with the guy and going with life. And we knew each other for years. That's what I was talking about. We knew each other for years in church, but we never dated or anything. And so I got divorced in June 2017. I was done. I was like, okay, Lord, so I'm pretty much good. I'm going to be single until my oldest goes to college. That's what I said, because what I put her through with my ex, I don't ever want to do that again. And so that was my thing to God. I said, all right, Lord, me and you until JoJo goes to college. And when she goes to college, then, I'll see about it. Just tell me what you want me to do for you, what ministry you want me to start, what you want me to do. And, that wasn't the case. And so, the question was, how did I prepare for my new husband? I didn't know I was preparing for my new husband. So basically, I used the next few months of my life from the time I got divorced. I was just spending that time with God, getting to know him, spending time with him, talking to him, and not just like praying in the spirit and things like that, because when you do that, that is awesome. That is great. That is what he says that we need in this time. But what I was doing was emptying my heart out to him. Whenever I was feeling something, whenever I was wanting to share something, instead of calling a girlfriend, I would talk to God about it. I was just praising him. I was worshiping him for what he just got me through. Like I had spent 2 very challenging years tried to commit suicide. I was in depression, all types of things. And he helped me through that. And he helped me in a powerful way. And so here I am out of that, single mom, 2 kids, no job. Because when I got separated from him, I didn't have a job. Lord knows how I got an apartment. That was all God. And so I'm sitting here, 2 kids, no job, and I'm sitting there with God, and it's just me and him. And I'm just like, okay, Lord, let's do this. And that's what we did. Like, I just spent time with him. I read books. You know, I read Sarah Jakes Roberts. I read, why is it not coming out? Kenneth Copeland's books. I read The Path. I read The Awakening. Like, I read books. I was praying. I was just trying to just better me, because the Lord showed me in that marriage that I had some things. I had some things that I needed to work on. And so that's what I did. And in October of 2017, so I got divorced in June. In October of 2017, I ended up reaching out to Ralph. Now, that's a whole nother story why I did that. I wasn't reaching out to him to date him. But I feel like the Lord bamboozled me into that. So that answer, I hope that answers the question, how I prepared for my new marriage. I didn't really prepare for it. I just was working on me. And I know people say that all the time, like, girl, just work on you. Make sure that you become a wife before you become a wife. And like, yeah, that's all good and said and done. But a lot of times people don't really know what that means. They just think like, you know, well, you got to dress a certain way, and you got to act a certain way, and you got to read marriage books and single lady books. And sometimes it's not so much that. It's you just really helping. It's you getting before God, allowing him to make you who he has created you to be. And then you would morph into the destiny that he has for you. You will automatically walk into that. There's nothing stopping you after that, because I mean, I don't have to explain why. You know, your destiny is rooted in God. And so if you engulf yourself in God, there is no way that you can miss out on anything. And I hope I answered the question. So I'm going to go to the next question. And then I'm going to get a question from the stream. Thank you, guys. Listen, I don't want y'all to think that I'm ignoring your comments. I'm reading them, but I don't want to, you know, like fall away from the questions, because I did say I was going to answer them. But I just want to really thank you guys for tuning in. I really do. I thank you so much. You're such a blessing to me. I thank you guys so very much. And divorced, still married. Divorced, still married. I don't know what that means. If you can explain what that means. See, now if I do this, I'll keep reading them. So I'm going to read them. Just give me a second. I'm going to read this one. Hold on. People who have been married and remarried with a living spouse are living in adultery. The scriptures do not lie or contradict itself. Ah, that's what you're trying to say. Okay. So I've asked God a few times, how do I approach people who say things like that in my comments? Because it happens. It really does. It happens often. Not too often. Most of the time, my comments are very positive. Most of the people who watch my videos are people who have gone through things that are very similar to me. And so sometimes it's not until you really live through something that you feel the brunt of it, and that you feel you have compassion for someone. We're called to have compassion for people, whether we can relate or not. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people don't exercise that passion that we're supposed to have for one another. And so because of that, when I get comments and they're positive comments, usually it's from people who can relate, people who know how it feels to be married to someone and they're dogging you out, to be married to someone who has dogged you out so badly that you've tried to commit suicide despite the fact that you had children, you know. And y'all moms out there, you know what I mean. If you love your kids enough, you love your kids too much to take your life. But if you're still thinking about the idea of committing suicide just to get rid of the hurt, that means you must be really hurting. And so I'm saying all that to say, I've asked God how to approach that question. And I think what I'm getting in my spirit is that there's a twofold answer to that. Number one, you quoting the scriptures, you're 100% right. You're 100% right in what you're saying. God does not change his mind. He doesn't make things up and change later. Like, that's not what he does, right? And so we also have to consider one thing. We have to consider two things. One, and this is something that God told me personally. He told me that, and he posed a question to me. He said, do you think that it is more important to me for you to have a successful marriage, meaning the marriage lasts until death do you part, no matter what it's doing to you, no matter you leaving me, no matter you taking your own life, no matter you leaving the things of God, just being destroyed, your spirit being destroyed inside? Do you think it's more important that you have a successful marriage, or do you think it's more important that you follow me all the days of your life, that you walk into your destiny and purpose that I have for you, and you live with me for eternity? And the question to that, and I hope you know the answer to that, the answer to that is B, okay? Meaning it's more important to him that I live for him, that I obey him, that I am with people who bring me closer to him, that I live eternity with him, that I find destiny and purpose in my life that he's created me for. That is more important to him. So do you think that he's really going to have you, women out there, do you think that he's going to have you stay in a relationship that is abusive? He's cheating on you. He's hurting you. He's making you depressed. He's doing all of these things to you. You've prayed. You've fasted for this man. You've gotten counseling. You've done whatever and everything that you could have possibly done. But his will is stronger than yours when it comes to him, right? Your will, his will, rules what he does. God is not a magician, okay? So he doesn't make anybody do anything. And so if his will is saying, hey, I purposefully am prideful, I am purposefully hurtful and manipulative, I don't love her. I don't love her, definitely don't love her like Christ loves her. So I don't love her, but I'm just going to stay in the relationship because I enjoy manipulating her. I enjoy being a narcissist. Do you really think God is going to make you stay in that relationship just for the sake of being married? That is incorrect. And so for anybody out there who says they want to throw scriptures out there and say, hey, this is what it is. God said, who I put together. If you're choosing people, I had a woman who messaged me and said, hey, I married this guy because we were dating and we were going to the church and we lived together. And people said that we should not live together. So I decided to marry him. And it's been abusive ever since. That is not God's marriage for you. You were bullied into that marriage by religious people saying, hey, don't live with her, just marry her. Don't live with her, marry her because you're sinning. That is horrible advice. The advice that she should have gotten was move out and stop sinning and follow God and seek God about who it is that he has for you. So for all these religious people who love spitting out religiosity and saying, well, you stay in that abusive marriage because God hates divorce. That is stupid. It's just stupid. And I'm sorry, but it is. It's stupidity. God hates divorce, but he also hates his people going to hell. And I'm sorry, a lot of people who are dealing with abuse and dealing with depression and dealing with all types of things, everything that the enemy can possibly throw at you because you're dealing with these things, there's open doors being, because of the husband or wife, whoever, who's doing the abuse, they're leaving an open door in their marriage. And so the enemy is allowed to manipulate and throw weapons and wicked schemes into that household, hurting them, hurting their children, hurting the generations to come. And so because of that, there's so many things that you're opening yourself to by just remaining in a marriage that God never put together. So I want to be very careful to not get all up in arms about this, because it's not my videos are not talking to you. I love you. I do. I absolutely love you. And I pray that God opens your eyes to be compassionate and to get God out of the box that you put him in. But my videos are not for you. My videos are for the women and men who need help, who are seeking God for answers, who are either single, dating, married, divorced, who don't really find a place. They can't find a place in the church. They don't understand. They can't find understanding because people want to just throw scripture at them. But when life hits you and life hits you hard, a lot of times your relationship with God, all the time, your relationship with God is what saves you, not religiosity. That's why I don't like answering questions like that, because it's just a lot. So, where is the Bible? Does it say to stay until they kill you? Come on. And most people who do not deal with that stuff, if you're not dealing with that stuff, you're not dealing with the abuse, you're not dealing with the manipulation, you're not dealing with the mind games, you don't have compassion for that. And so you feel like abuse, just pray for them, just fast for them. And it's like, not only am I going to be abused, but I'm going to die of starvation because I'm fasting for this man all month. I'm fasting for this man every, few weeks. His will is strong. He has a will. He has free will. God is not going to beat him over the head with anything. He has to want to change. He has to want to change. It is not that you marry to stay. It is that you are not to marry. Absolutely. That was my point. That is my point. It is not that you have to stay. It is that you are not to, remarry. Oh, no. Oh, gosh. Okay. So I thought you were saying I thought you were saying it is not that you have to stay, but don't get married in the first place to the wrong person. I was with you on that, but not the remarry part. Not the remarry part. Thank you, Tiffany. Who are you to condemn her? We've all sinned and made mistakes. Sin is sin. Mistakes are mistakes. I think people, it's easier to kind of pinpoint mistakes like divorce or things like that. It's easier to pinpoint those things because you get to, I'm saying it out in the open, right? I'm getting on here and I'm saying, hey, I'm a Christian and I divorced my husband. And so you say things like that. And so it's just like an open door for these judgmental people to come in and say, oh, you're going to hell. Oh, you're doing this. And it's like, but you're judging and you're not supposed to do that either. You're not supposed to judge until the appointed time. And you're supposed to judge with righteous judgment. And if you keep judging people the way you're judging people, God is going to judge you in the same way you judge them. And not only that, but the measure that you judge people, God is going to judge you with that same measure. You don't want that. You want his grace. You want his mercy. I want his grace and mercy. So if you feel like as a sister or brother in Christ that what I'm doing is that wrong, what you need to do is pray for me. What you need to do is go to God about me. And because I have a relationship with God, he's going to talk to me and say, hey, Faye, you're wrong. Hey, Faye, you did this wrong. Hey, you should have never done this. So we have to really be careful calling ourselves Christians, but not really doing things the Christian way. Okay. Yes, they pick and choose what scripture to highlight. And they're not living right themselves. It happens often. It happens often, and we just have to be really careful. We have to be really careful to not judge and not do that, because it's a game that the enemy wants us to play. Okay, what are some signs about your soulmate, or do you just build a connection with God? Build a connection with God. Signs are scary. Signs are dangerous as well, because if you rely on signs, the enemy can send you signs too, and those signs can be directing you right to the wrong person. The one thing that I want to say is that when I began this channel, my main focus was to take back or to dismantle every wicked scheme of the enemy against our lives, because he uses men and women to destroy us. And whether you realize it or not, you have a life that has already been played out. God already played your life back, rewound it, and then started it off for you. So he knows what you're going to do. He knows the mistakes. He knows everything he has for you. That's what the Bible says, that he's walked down paths that you haven't even walked down yet. He's done this, right? Your life is not new to him. And so because of this, you'll find yourself, uh, going down this path that he has for you. And then the enemy says, okay, well, they're right here. And here is where the blessing is. Here is where the destiny is. Here is where purpose is. So I have to do something here to roadblock her, to stop her from achieving and being everything God has for her. And the best way to do that is to send her or him someone who is going to destroy everything that God placed inside of them in order to achieve this, in order to achieve this destiny. And I hope I'm making sense, but that's why it's really important to be with the person God has created you to be. If you do not believe in soulmates, or you do not believe that God has on purpose created somebody for you, I urge you to go to God about that. I urge you to talk to him and see what he says about that, because there's no way that God has played your life out, that he knows the hairs on your head. He knows everything you're going to do. He's interested in you completely, but he did not create somebody for you. I don't agree with that. I do believe that there is a perfect, there's a good, and there's a permissible will of God. I believe your perfect will of God is your soulmate, the person who was created to be with you, to fulfill purpose and destiny with you. I believe there is a good choice to make as well. Somebody who is good. They're Christians. They love God. They love you. They choose to walk in humility. They are giving, all the good stuff, right? All the good stuff. But that wasn't quite the person who's created you for. But that's a good choice. Good choice. And then you have a permissible, where you might not be able to walk into the purpose God had for you with this person, but it's permissible. I don't really know what else to say about that. Like, it's permissible. That's a good choice. I mean, it's good enough. I'm sorry. I don't want good enough. I don't really want good. I want perfect. I want perfect. I want the perfect will of God for my life in every area. And if you believe that God is not that interested in your love life, your spouse, your relationship, but he's interested in everything else, I don't agree with that. So we have to really be careful with that. Your channel is such a blessing and exposes a lot of things that are wrong. You choose wrong. It resonates with me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I hear it is the hardest thing to see things and never experience. I pray every day for them. Yes. Christ's compassion. God is not going to want you to be in any type of relationship that is taking you further away from him. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next one. I've been in a bad marriage for 24 years and we are divorcing. I feel so sad and my faith has been a little shaken. So I get that often when people are dealing with long marriages and now they're facing divorce. And I feel for you. I feel for you, because no matter how bad that marriage was, I was only married for 2 years, but no matter how bad that marriage was, I tell you, when I got divorced, I felt like I was mourning. I remember leaving the courthouse and I just went in the bathroom and cried. I just cried. And I don't think I was crying because I didn't want to get divorced. That was not the case. However, I was crying because this is something that I thought was going to last forever. I thought like this was going to last forever. I was going to die with this man. We were going to have the babies. We were going to have the ministry. I always knew that God called me to ministry. And so I thought this was the man that I was going to do it with. And, you know, we're going to fulfill purpose and we're going to get into business together. Like I had so many thoughts and things that I was looking forward to. And so when that didn't happen, I did go into a state of depression almost. That didn't last very long, but a little bit of like, I felt like I was mourning. I felt like somebody died. And so when you're dealing with something for 24 years, I couldn't imagine. I'm 30 years old. So that's most of my life. And so what I do want to say is God can mend anything. A broken heart is what he's here to mend, right? And so I don't want you to ever feel like because it's been this long or because I'm this age or because I dealt with it this long. First off, you're probably going to need some inner healing. There's probably things in you because of such a long situation, there's things that were probably done that has hurt you. And so there's probably going to be some inner healing that needs to be done. So I advise you, my church does it, but I don't know where you are. My church does inner healing and deliverance. And I've done it a few times and I think I'm going to go do it again. But basically it's just, it helps by exposing the things that were done to you that have left marks on your spirit, left marks on your soul. And then because they left marks on your soul, what is the word? Okay. So they affect your everyday life. They affect your relationships. They affect how you view the world, how you view men, how you view women. So I advise you to go to your church or go to someone else. I go to Lionheart Church in Austell, Georgia. And they are big on inner healing and deliverance. It's non-denominational. Come as you are. You can call, email. If you email me at Miss Williams 1028. Why am I giving you that one? That is an old email. Sorry. FaganAdams@gmail.com. Fagan, Fagan Adams @gmail.com. If you email me, I'll go ahead and send you a link to anything that you need as far as like an application to get the inner healing, and even like sermons talking about inner healing. But don't feel like this is the end, because it's not. I'm sorry that you've been through that, but this is not the end. If anything, it's the beginning. One thing okay, so I know that was an example. Okay. All right. How do you manage co-parenting with a narcissistic? Oh, toy girl. Oh Lord. Sorry. That was a good question. So how do I manage co-parenting with a narcissistic ex? Grace and prayer. Okay, so let me tell you, from the beginning, it has been turmoil, right? It's just been bad. But I thank God for my husband, because my husband has, cushioned the blow like tremendously. He is so humble. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys. And listen, I'm a real girl, right? I'm a realist, and I speak real. And so I'm gonna tell you, when I'm from New York, I'm from the Bronx, and I'm very hot. Like, thank God for salvation, because I was a mess. But like, I used to be really hot-headed, and like, you come at me wrong, that's fighting words in my block, right? And so I was a hothead. And so my husband is so not like that. He's from Mississippi. He's like super duper calm, cool, and collected. The spirit of God like exudes from him. He's never really angry. I've never heard him raise his voice. Literally never. And so you come from that. And I'm dealing with my past, like, you come at me, blah, 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 and he's just not like that. And so my ex-husband used to do some crazy things. Like, we would exchange my daughter, and he would get out the car and act crazy, or he would, just jealous stuff like, oh, you got with a dude already and and you got him around, just acting crazy. And my husband was not like that. And I used to be upset with my husband because I'm like, clap back. Like, clap back. And my husband would be like, no, I am not going to clap. And my husband's from the military. Like, he's a military man. We're a military family. There's no fear in him. Okay. Not only is he not fearless, or he's fearless, but he has a fearlessness of God. Like, he would come against dragons. Right. But it's not fear. He was just like, I'm not stooping down to his level. Like, and he talks in this monotone, like, I'm not stooping down to his level for what? He's like, he wants me to do that. And I'm not going to do that. You're safe. I'm safe. Our kids are safe. He can yell and do whatever he wants. And so to tell you that it has gotten better, it has. God has really rearranged some things. He's made it so that we have boundaries with him that we don't cross and he doesn't cross. And so the boundaries make it inconvenient at times because boundaries are inconvenient, but they make it so that we have peace. And so our boundaries are very strict, and God put those boundaries in our life for a reason. And so he made it so that nobody crosses these boundaries, and it makes it very black and white. And black and white is what we need with a narcissistic person, right? And black and white is what he hates. So he's really mad all the time. He's mad all the time. But we are constantly praying for him. And sometimes I fall off because he acts crazy and I'm like, oh, I don't want to. But I have to constantly pray for him. I constantly pray that his heart softens, because if his heart softens, not only does it affect us and allows us to have more peace, or we have peace regardless, but it just helps the co-parent situation, but it also helps my daughter. And now my daughter doesn't feel the brunt of it, because even though she feels peace in this household, and I pray that she does there as well, you can feel tension as a child, And so if there's any type of tension, she feels it. And so, yeah, good question though. I go to God, and like God really helps us with it. And I'm not a hothead anymore, and my husband's not a hothead, and that helps, because when he acts crazy, the ex-husband, he doesn't get anything back. And so, that's boring. He is able to make my type of decision. Okay. I'm exhausted. Don't let nobody have you anxious about nothing. Peace. Pursue peace. Joyce Meyer says that. Pursue peace. You chase after it. Chase after it. Don't let nobody take your peace. You've been married to 5 years. Esther Dova, can you email me? I hope I help you in this video or any other video, but I always tell people, you have to go to God first. You have to make sure that your relationship with God, that path from you to God is clear of any debris. So we want to make sure it's clear of any issues that you might be having or your husband might be having. So make sure that you're not walking in sin yourself, making sure that you have communication open, an open line of communication with God that's free from sin, that is making sure that you don't have any generational curses. I've never talked about that on this channel, but that's real. Okay, generational curses that can be hindering forward movement, that can be making it so that your husband is acting up. I do not believe that every time your husband or your wife acts up, that means you get divorced. That is completely false. You fight for your marriage because the enemy doesn't like marriage. And so if you're dealing with something, it could very well be the enemy. So just you stay in prayer for your husband, and you go in prayer for you and ask God if there's anything that you're not receiving. Is there any open doors and open windows in your life that is allowing you to not hear from God, or maybe allowing you to deal with things repetitively in your life? And that's regarding your husband. always make sure that your line of communication is open and that you are free from anything yourself, because that will help avoid what that would do is, if you work on you and God, your mind and your spirit and your body is now aligned, right? So my old pastor from years ago showed a image, and I don't know if you guys have seen this image, but it's an umbrella, and then there's a smaller umbrella under it, and then there's the woman, and the smaller umbrella under it is the husband, and the big umbrella is God. So if your husband is out of alignment, right? Your husband is out of alignment, that doesn't change where you are. You stay under the umbrella of God, and God will always redirect your path wherever he needs for you to go. So if you've been deceived, if you've been hurt, if you've been pulled off the path God has for you, if you stay under that umbrella and you stay in his face, you stay at his feet, and you pray and you pray and you make sure you're free from those things that I mentioned before, what'll happen is you'll never be uncovered. And God will never leave you. So you don't have to worry about that, but you'll never be uncovered. What you don't want is, you don't want this, and you don't want your husband, and then your husband gets out of alignment, and then you get out of alignment. Because then you're free to be exposed to things that God was always going to cover you from. Okay? So I hope that helps. But you can always email me. Another question that I got from the post. Okay. What did your single season look like? What are some of the things you were doing? How long were you single? And how was it getting over your ex? How did you break those soul ties? Oh gosh. So it's interesting because I talked about this in the beginning, so I'm not going to repeat that. The part that I already talked about. I feel like I have something on me. Oh, I do. Okay. Y'all could have told me. How did your single season? Okay, so my single season after my ex-husband, wasn't really a single season. I mentioned that earlier, what I did during that season. It was a lot of praying and stuff, but you can go back to the beginning of the video to listen to that part. Getting over my ex, I'm still getting over my ex. Meaning, please don't take that out of context. Meaning, I'm still dealing with the residue of my previous marriage. There's no magic wand for that, right? So I'm still dealing with the residue of my previous marriage. However, I am healing daily. I'm healing by the hour. I'm healing now as I'm doing this. This is healing for me. I'm talking about it, being able to help someone. I mean, I can't explain how much that's healing. So when you guys say thank you, that's why I'm always like, thank you. Like, you have no idea. And so when we are talking about how I got over him, like I said, I'm still getting over him. Now, if you mean like how I got over being with him, like as far as like missing him, that never happened. I never missed him. I didn't miss him when we were separated. I didn't miss him. One day he came to the house and we were separated, but we had not been divorced yet. Maybe we were divorced by then. I'm not sure. It's a blur. But he was picking up my daughter at the time. She was 1. She was a baby. So he came in the house to get her. And he was like, so how are you doing? Do you want, he was like, so are you dating someone or something like that? And I looked at him like, boy, bye, no? Like, that's the last thing I'm thinking about. And I was like, no. And he's like, well, I don't know about you, but I'm looking because I never wanted to be single. And I was thinking to myself, dude, the number one thing that you need to do is focus on you. Like, you please don't marry somebody right now. Like, that's the last thing you need. And I said that about myself. I said, that was the last thing I needed. I said, no, I'm not looking for anything. That's the last thing I need. I said, I'm really enjoying this time with God. And he got kind of offended, like, oh, well, that means you never really wanted marriage. And I'm like, no, that's not what that means. That means I'm really enjoying this time with God because I know I need to work on myself. And that is what I said because I meant it. I needed to work on myself. And so, what was the question? Oh, and yeah, and so in that conversation, he was like, "Wouldn't it have been funny? Would it be funny if we started dating after we become friends, started dating, we got married again?" And I almost wanted to vomit because I'm like, "No, like what? No!" And he said it himself. He said, "Well, you're probably happy you got rid of me because I was." And when I say that to say, like, I was miserable in that marriage. And so did I miss him? No, not even a little bit. I didn't even miss the companionship. I actually enjoyed being by myself. And so, no, like to hope that answers the question, I didn't have to get over him. I never really had to go over, get over being with him or missing him. That never happened. It never happened. Breaking the soul ties, that was what I did during inner healing and deliverance. And I did that not only with ministers at my church, but I also did that by myself. I was praying one day and the Lord was showing me the soul ties that were still there. And I'm going to tell you exactly what that is. And I'm going to do a video about this as well. But I realized that I was having soul ties based off of things that he was doing in his private time. So the Lord was showing me that he was lusting after me during this time, like while we were not together, while I'm remarried, he was lusting after me. And so there were times where I would I would think about, and I'm being real, like I told you, this video and this channel is real, right? I would think about, or not even reminisce, that's the wrong word, because it would happen to me opposed to me thinking about it on purpose. I would just be minding my business and I would almost have a vision of times when we were intimate. And I would be like, whoa, what was that? And so there were things like that was happening often within like a month span that was happening. And I was like, Lord, what is this? And I would go to God, like, God, you know my heart and you know I'm not lusting after him. I am happy where I am. I don't have any of those thoughts. Like that doesn't happen. But I felt like it was happening to me. And then the Lord gave me a dream about something like that, about lust when it came to him, showing me what he was doing in his private time. And because of that, that's when the Lord opened my eyes to a soul tie that needed to be broken. And so I did that. And then it stopped. I don't know if he stopped, but it stopped for me. So yeah, careful. And I want to say this, listen, I want to say this part, and emotional soul ties. I saw that, is there a way you can have emotional soul tie? Completely emotional soul tie. That's very true. I gotta think because not everything is an emotional soul tie. So there's things that I deal with emotionally or dealt with. I really don't deal with emotional things like that now. Things that pertain to co-parenting I deal with, but I don't really deal with anything that, actually, no, I take that back. I deal with things as it pertains to like I'm recovering. So like, for instance, there's things that he did to me in my relationship with him that if my husband says something that just reminds me of it, I get hot and I get like, my heart starts beating and I start to feel like, well, like, and I don't ever feel like, oh, you're going to do what he did, because my husband is literally the polar opposite of him. But I feel like, I don't know, it's almost like post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't know. It's like, that's what it feels like. It feels like it's post-traumatic stress disorder. Perfect. That's exactly what it feels like. People want to name it, but I think it's just a soul tie. I think it's something that's attached to you based off of what happened, and it just brings it up every now and again. And so I'm dealing with things like that very sporadically. It doesn't happen often, but if you want to call that an emotional soul tie, maybe. PTSD. Yeah, a trigger. Listen, okay. See, I'll do this all day. I'll talk to you guys, and I want to answer the other questions that I got. I have a few more. I think I have three more. Yes, I have three more. Mm. So, thanks for this question. It says, "When did you know enough is enough in regards of doing things your way?" So, I'm thinking you mean like, it's hard for me. I don't know what you mean. I don't know if you mean like doing things my way when it came to relationships. I figured out enough was enough when I found myself downtown Atlanta, no phone, no purse, no nothing. I literally jumped out of his car, my ex-husband, and I mean, he was just emotionally abusive, verbally abusive. We were actually outside of Pinky Promise, not Pinky Promise, the Go Oasis, Heather and Cornelius's church in Atlanta, and I was taking him there because I'm like, I was looking for anything to help our relationship, and so I was taking him there for our first time, and he just was abusive in the car on the way there. And by the time I got there, I was bawling, like bawling, and I couldn't get myself together. I was hyperventilating, and he was embarrassed. He was like, "Stop crying because people pass in the car and they thinking that I'm doing something to you." And that made me cry more because I'm like, "You're my husband. Why don't you even care?" And it was just bad. Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to talk about it. But so he was like, "I'm not going into this church with you looking like that because people are going to think I did something to you, which you did, but whatever." And so he pulls off and we get to the light. And I said, "I don't feel right." And I said something like, I said, "We really need help. I said, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I don't want to live this life anymore." And I said, "And that makes me scared to know that I'm even considering taking my life." And I said, "We need help." And he said, "No, you need to stop being dramatic," or something like that. And I just opened the door and I got out the car. And he followed me half a block yelling outside, like, "Get in the car, people." He was really big on like appearance and he didn't want people to see. And he was like, "Get in the car, get in the car." And I just ignored him and I walked. I didn't have a purse, I didn't have a phone, I didn't have anything. And I was out there for hours, walking downtown Atlanta. And ended up going into like this hair salon and calling my mom. And my mother, I was on the phone with her and I was just crying. And I went into the bathroom or something to talk to her. And she said, "Fagan, you're a strong woman because you came from me." And she said, "I'm sending you some money and I want you to," and she never really told me to leave him, but she said, "I want you to really consider what you're doing to yourself by staying." And she said, "I've never heard you like this, and I never want to hear you like this again." And I told her that I didn't want to be here anymore. And she was crying. And that was like our moment where I realized I have to do something different. And I think that that's when I was ready to let go, because I don't believe God was trying to get me to stay in the relationship. I really believe I was holding on to a relationship because of insecurity. I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to be alone again. I didn't want to give up. My personality is not like that. And I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to give up on something. I didn't want to give up on him. And so that's why when I get comments like, "Oh, you should have never left your husband," I never really, that was the last thing I wanted to do. It was the last thing I wanted to do. Um, and so I'm saying that to say that was my rock bottom. That was my rock bottom. And no one's ever really asked me that, and I forgot about that moment. So thanks. See, healing. Um, it does. That soul tie does need to be broken, but I think a lot of soul ties, a lot of things that you deal with when it's a divorce or a broken relationship or something like that, a lot of that stuff is not soul ties. A lot of that stuff is just brokenness, things that were chipped off of you, things that were hurt. There's hurts and brokenness and things like that. And so when you're moving on in life, when you still have those, I call it residue, when you still have the residue of a previous relationship, not so much it's just something that needs to be broken. Sometimes it's more things that need to be healed. And sometimes time heals things, relationships heal things. I'm never going to say to go in a relationship to be healed, but sometimes meeting the person that God has for you, they're able to mend things. Oh my gosh. Like, I remember I was sitting in the car with my husband now when we were dating, and I told him, I said, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this. I can't do this. Like, I don't even know why I'm in the car with you. I don't even know what I've been doing. Like, we're courting and this is crazy. Like, I just got divorced. I'm still hurt and all these different things. And he said, Fagan, sometimes, he said, I will do whatever you want me to do. He said, I will slow down if you want me to slow down. I will leave you alone if you want me to leave you alone. He said, but a lot of times God, there's things that you're saying that you want to be healed from, but your healing is in me. Like, I can help you heal. That's what he said. I can help mend those things. And when I tell you, that is exactly what happened. There are things that my husband has helped me with. Untruths, things that I thought a man just does. You know, my husband is he's a man. He's a man. Like, and not only is he a man, he's a godly man, meaning he does what the word tells him to do. He treats me like Christ treats me. And that sounds kind of cliche, but it's true. He treats me like God treats me. Every time I think about the love that I get from my husband, it mimics the love that I get from God completely. It is unequivocally, and this is the thing, it's not anything like he's doing something like works. No, he loves me like God loves me. And that in itself has been healing. So a lot of times it's not soul ties that you need to break. Sometimes it's just healing. Sometimes it's just moving on. And as you're moving on, a lot of times, like if you have like a sprain or something, they say walk it off, or they say, well, you don't need a cast. You just need to let it rest for a while. And then when they give you like a few weeks out, you say, okay, well, 2 weeks is time to walk on it slowly. And, in 3 weeks, it's time to actually put more weight on it. And then by the 4th, 5th week, you're able to run and exercise again. And that's exactly how it feels in my life. It just feels like I'm maybe in the walking stage. I'm not sure. Esther, my email address. You're welcome. My email address is faganadams@gmail.com. faganadams@gmail.com, right? Yes. I was married to a pastor 6 years who abused me physically, emotionally, and verbally. I almost lost myself. So you've been married for 6 years to a pastor who abused you, and you've been separated for 2 years. No divorce yet. What do you do at such a time? This is the time to get to know God for yourself. I don't know how long you've been in the church. I don't know how long you've been a part of religion, or people telling you what God is and what God can do and how God treats you and how God loves you and how God talks to you. A lot of that stuff can cloud your relationship with him. And if it hasn't, I'm not judging you. I'm not saying like that's what happened, but I'm saying this is the perfect time to just commune with the Father, to find him again, but clear from all of the stuff that you've been dealing with. And that was key for me, not just getting to know him, but getting to know him where I could breathe again. Like, okay, me and you, Lord, opposed to like there's a difference. There's a difference. And so when you're able to just be in your own space, I don't care if it's a room, I don't care if you're renting a room, I don't care if you're in a mansion, I don't care if you have an abundance or you're broke. It doesn't matter. Just spend the time with him. And I can't even explain to you what's going to happen to your life. He's going to blow your mind. He's going to blow your mind. What is God trying to tell us when a certain guy comes to your mind and you prayed about it and it still happens, but you guys no longer speak and sometimes you even have visions of him? I don't know what God is trying to tell you, but it could be you, it could be the enemy, or it could be God. So the first thing I tell you to do is go to God. Go to God. And I don't know if you pray in tongues. I don't know if you pray in your heavenly language. But if you do, that will be helpful, because what happens is you don't have the interference of the enemy trying to interfere with your prayers. Sometimes you'll be praying in English and then the enemy will start, well, da, 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 or, like, you don't have that. It's just a connection between you and God, and you don't even know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're praying, but your spirit is praying the perfect prayer to God, who's the only person who can understand what you're saying. And so I would pray, ask God for confirmations, ask God to open your eyes, make sure your heart is pure, that you're not wanting to hear yes or no, that you're just wanting to hear truth. And when you're wanting to hear truth, God is going to give it to you. He doesn't want to hold anything from us. Okay. I felt like God gave us no support. What? Wait, there must be a first part to that. I don't see the first part to this, but let me read it. I felt like God gave us no support. It was strange, as if he letting it crash and burn, not even a child, nothing to connect us. Sorry, I gotta go back up. I'm trying to figure out where this came from. Hey, I'm sorry. Whoever wrote that, I don't see the first part of your question or comment, so I don't know what the second part is referring to. So can you write that again? I felt like God gave us no support. It was strange, as if he was letting it crash and burn, not even a child, nothing to connect us. It just spiraled into ashes as I prayed and cried. I realized in the 14 years that oh, is that, I'm not sure what you're talking about. I'm sorry. Can you please send that again? Okay, so I'm gonna go to another question. I had found love once, but I messed up and we broke up. Will I ever find love again? I have dated several, I guess she meant like several times, to no avail. I'm losing hope. I found love once, we broke up. Oh yeah, sorry. I don't know what I thought I was reading. Yes, so you found love once, you broke up, and then you've been dating and you haven't really found that kind of love. Love doesn't come once and never again. Now, if you're feeling as though that could have been your soulmate and maybe you guys broke up, then you pray and you go to God and you say, hey, God, I want your perfect will for me. If you pray for God's perfect will for you, no matter what that is, you pray for God's perfect will for you, even if he is the guy, he's going to come back. I don't care. And don't y'all come at me, you guys, because sometimes people will be like, you can't say things like that. The Bible. Okay, listen. My husband tried to he asked me out in 2011 or 2012. I said no. We continued to go to the same church. He dated, I dated, I ended up getting married. Even through my marriage, he was having dreams about me. Now, God, someone said this in the comments. Sorry, this is a little to the left, but someone said this in the comments of one of our videos, that God would never give you a dream about another woman if she's married. That's not true. Stop saying what God won't do. Okay, we got to stop doing that, because when we say what God won't do, we limit him in our lives. Stop saying what he can't do. He knows your heart. He knew that with my husband being the kind of man he was, that he could do that. And so he gave him a dream about me. It wasn't a sexual dream. He gave him a dream about me, showing him who I was to him. He didn't realize that that was God, what God was doing, but he was showing him, hey, who this woman is for you. Now he did that. I believe God did that because he knew that if he would tell my husband that there is a woman for you, there is a woman for you, even though she's married, this woman I have for you. My husband didn't interpret it that way, but it made him think, right? It made him consider. And so what that did was it might have made him stop maybe dating someone else, stop pursuing other women, because he had a thought like, why do I keep having this woman in my thoughts? And if you watch the whole video, he says that he asked God after the third dream to stop giving him dreams about me because I was married, and God stopped. My husband, being the man he is, said, all right, Lord, this is weird. Like, you're giving me dreams about this woman that I did once like, but she's married. And he was seeing me at church. My ex-husband didn't really come to the church like that. But when he did come, that's awkward for him. Like, he's seeing me, I'm with him, but then he had a dream about me last night. Like, that's weird. And so I forgot what the question was. Oh, and so I'm saying that to say, because you were with someone and then you guys broke up doesn't mean anything. My husband tried to talk to me in 2011, 2012. Nothing ever came of it. I ended up dating. He's dating. I got married. And God still found a way to get us back together or get us together. And so my point is, my biggest thing I want you guys to understand is that we have to stop limiting God. He is everything and everything is in him. There's nothing he can't do. So if you were dating someone that you think that might have been your husband, but it just didn't work out and you guys broke up, unless that man is passed away, there is still hope. And there's a possibility that even though it was good, you guys had a wonderful time together, maybe you loved him, he loved you, that doesn't mean that was God's perfect will for you. And so I urge you to just go to God. Ask God, hey, what was this? I felt like this is a good thing for us. It didn't work out, but what was it? Is it something that I need to, just erase out of my mind? And honestly, I would say that not even think about it. Don't even think about it. Don't think about him anymore. You go to God about his perfect will for you, and not just pertaining to your husband. His perfect will for you pertaining to your life, your spiritual walk, ministry. Everyone has a ministry. Your ministry, your purpose, maybe business, what he has for you. And then all other things will work out. The Bible says that if we just go to God and we put his things first, ask him what he wants you to do for him. If you start to do that, all things will work out for your good. He will move things where he needs to move them in order for them to work out for you. Don't let anybody tell you different. Everyone is meant to have a husband and wife because he doesn't give women eggs for a reason to reproduce. Therefore, we are meant to reproduce children and get children from a husband. God grows everything for a reason. So I believe everyone is meant to have a spouse. I believe that too, kind of, just because I do believe that there are people who are called to be eunuchs, but then God gives them grace because they don't have sexual desires at all. My girlfriend, my sister in Christ, said something that was really good the other day. She said, people who God has called to be a eunuch, he gives them grace and they don't have any sexual desires, but there are people who, like popes and pastors, not pastors, but like popes, and they were not called to be a pope. And so they don't have the grace. And that's why they deal with sexual immorality. They deal with molestation and things like that, because that sexual drive was not shut down for them. So that was just a side note, but yeah. Faegan Adam. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Faegan Adams@gmail. Yes. Yeah, please confirm. That's my email. I take my glasses off because sometimes I just feel like a teacher. Um, classy tea. What exactly are you talking about? What does that mean? Okay, I think I don't have any more questions. Yeah. I don't have any more questions, guys. I think we're done. I did want to mention one thing though. Sorry, you know how you talk a lot and your lip gloss starts to get all. What is it? What is it? What is it? Raise your hand. What is the question? While you're typing that, I did want to mention it's really heavy on my heart. It's been heavy on my heart yesterday. Yesterday was an interesting day. I could not record. I couldn't do anything. I don't know if it was the enemy, me, God. Maybe I shouldn't have recorded anything. I don't know, but it was just really hard for me to get it done. And then the live wasn't working. But Ashley, you can still watch it. I believe. Yes, you can still watch it. It's going to be recorded onto the video. Onto the channel. But it was really heavy on my heart because some people feel as though I get emails from people who are saying like, well, I'm going through this with my husband. I'm going through this with my wife. And I want to make it very clear. And I said this in the beginning of the video. I just want to say it again. I do not advocate divorce. I don't advocate divorce. I don't advocate any of those things. I believe that you're going to deal with things in your marriage regardless, right? You're going to deal with things in your marriage, especially if you're a Christian couple. You both love God. You're going to deal with turmoil in your marriage. It may not be abuse or an extent of, sorry, I feel like there's something on my lip. I don't know what's going on. I think it's this stuff. I don't know if it's going to be an extent of abuse or anything like that. But I do believe you're going to go through things in your marriage. And the best thing you can do is not just pray for your husband and fast for him, right? Everybody wants to say that until they're in it, right? And they realize that that may not always work. You need to find inner healing and deliverance ministries. You need to go to God about if there's anything that is a stronghold that's connecting you or your husband to something in your past. If there's any open doors, maybe there's sin in somewhere in your life or his life that's opening the door to the enemy working in your life. Those are the things that I would ask for you to do. My story, I believe, is very. I don't think it's super duper common. I think it is uncommon, and I don't even get offended when people question it. I don't get offended when people say, well, the Lord said that he doesn't like divorce and you're an adulterer and I get offended. I don't get offended. I just get sad for you. Like for you to think that it's okay for you to say that in someone's comments. That's what I get like a little flustered about. But I don't get offended because I understand. Like I said, I stayed in that marriage for a very, very long time feeling that way. And I felt like the last thing I needed to do was divorce. That was the last thing. I just needed to help this man. I needed to help me, help him. Like that was what my focus was. And so my biggest thing is I tell this to my girlfriends personally. I have girlfriends who deal with things in their lives as far as relationships concerned, and they go, they find out that this man has been lying to them for all this time, and they thought that he was a godly man, and it didn't work out, and the people at church said that he was a good man, but he really wasn't, and all these different things. And I'm like, girl, the last thing you need to do is mourn over this. You need to praise God that you found this out before you said I do. Praise God that you realized that this was not the man before you got pregnant by him or had sex with him. And that's another thing. You guys do not have sex with these men when you are not married to them. When you are dating and courting, it is a courtship. Save yourself. Cover cover yourself by not being in compromising situations with them that is going to cause you to fall. My husband and I did not have sex before marriage. That was huge for me because I made that mistake with my ex-husband. Sex with him caused me to ignore the red flags. It caused me to ignore God. It caused me to hide him from my friends because I knew they were not going to approve. Their spirit was not going to approve. You know what I mean? And so I think I said a bunch of things just now, but there's just a lot. Like there's a lot that I want you guys to know. I want you guys to know to not have sex before marriage. Don't do it. First off, there's another soul tie that you have to break. Nobody got time for that. And then not only that, but then it's like you put shades on. Every time you have sex, you put a pair of shades on. And then you do it again. And before you know it, you're completely blind. You're completely blind. And so we can't do that. We want to be able to see things for what they are. And the only way to do that is to have a pure heart, an open heart to God, and a clear vision so you could see people for who they are. So where's your question? Okay, let me go back. So this is new for me, to wait for a spouse, because I did it completely wrong to begin with. But I wanted to know, when did you know that enough is enough of your own way? Did you ask me that question? Yes, I answered that question. Hey, I answered that question. So you're gonna have to rewind. I did answer it though. I'm here in the UK. I know I am not here by accident. Thank you. Awesome. I am going to visit the UK one day. I cannot wait. I cannot wait, y'all. You just don't know. So I struggle because I keep saying I want my husband to be proud to call me his wife. But man, I have to fight the negative thoughts. One being I have 3 kids. So are you saying that you are married or you're not married? Are you saying that you're not married? Because if you have, listen, okay, so I shared this before on my channel. You guys can drop off as you please if I'm talking too long, but I don't want to turn it off until I know I got everything out. So I shared this before. When my husband met me, I was a single mother, right? I had a 8-year-old and I had a 1.5-year-old. I was newly divorced. Sorry, not when my husband met me. We've known each other for years, but when we started courting, I was newly divorced, no job, no car, had a car, but that didn't last long because I didn't have money, right? So I had no job, no car, ultimately. I had 2 children. I had an apartment, and I was getting money from, like, God was just really supporting me. Like, and I don't know if anybody had ever been in that situation where you don't know where the money's coming from, but God is being faithful. You don't know how the rent is getting paid, but they are not kicking you out. Like, I'm sorry. I went through this season where I had to depend on God for everything. And I know he did that on purpose. But he met me in that space where I didn't have anything. And that was a big reason why I didn't want to date. I felt like I don't want to be a burden to someone. I didn't want to be a burden. And I ended up getting a job. I have a background in marketing. And so I did like PPC, like social media and things like that for a law firm downtown. But I was taking a Lyft and Uber downtown every day, back and forth to go to work. And and so I'm struggling, and this man comes and he still is interested, and I was just like, what's wrong with you? Like, what's wrong with you? And I'm dealing with all of these different things, and he didn't flinch. And I mean this, when God has someone for you, they have the grace for everything you're dealing with. It's not going to even make them think twice. He didn't think twice about it. He just was like, what do you need from me? What do you need from me? And most of the time I didn't allow him to help me because of pride. And because I was dealing with things from my ex-husband, where I felt like, my ex-husband always made me feel like a burden. He always made me feel like, oh, I do this for you. You owe me. And so I didn't want to do that with another man ever. And so that's another example of how he helped me heal. So I don't care if you have 3 kids, it does not matter. God doesn't care either. God is going to help you and provide for whatever it is that you need. Um, just a half an hour ago, and the live stream has given me so much peace about expectations I have. Perfect timing because I have a couples therapy session in about an hour. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you. How did you handle outsiders who are forcing you to stay in an abusive marriage? How do you explain to them why you needed to leave? So, when I was married to my husband, I did not really have a lot of people that were forcing me to stay. I did have a lot of people who were behind me, like, because I wanted to stay, right? So I didn't have anybody forcing me. I did have people that were like, okay, well, we're going to pray. Like, I had girlfriends who would pray with me for my husband and things like that. But I didn't really have anybody forcing me to stay. Um, no, I kind of kept things private because I didn't want anybody telling me which way to go. I wanted to hear from God. So I didn't really ask for like advice during that time. And I have really good friends. My friends are very in this season of my life and in that season it's the same friends, but they're really godly, and godly meaning, and I kind of don't even like that word, but godly meaning they um they don't speak out of turn. They make sure that they're not speaking from emotional standpoints, that they're speaking from the Holy Spirit, that the Holy Spirit is speaking through them. And if the Holy Spirit's not saying anything, they don't say anything. And that's how my friends are. Is it dark? I feel like it's dark. Hold on 1 second. Oh, that's worse. Okay, never mind. Never mind. Okay. Stay, yeah. So no one forcing me to stay. If somebody is forcing you to stay in an abusive marriage, please ignore them. Please ignore them. Go to God about what you need from him. How was your marriage? How was your complete submission to God journey with your situation? How was your complete submission to God journey? So I'm thinking you're talking about from going to divorce, like being divorced, to finding my husband. It's hot in here. Sorry, y'all. I don't know if that's what you're referring to. If that's what you're referring to, I have submission to God has been everything for me, and I'm still dealing with that because I'm a very I'm a recovering control freak, right? And so because of that, I'm constantly submitting to God. Like today I had to do it. Like, okay, Lord, that is you. Like you got it. I'm going to leave it at your feet and I'm not going to pick it back up. And so I do that with everything. I did that with my relationship with my husband, and that helps tremendously. That helps tremendously. I mean, it's everything for me. Let me see. I called off my wedding last year, and while I have peace, I feel so guilty sometimes. Don't you feel guilty about some? Sorry. I get so, do not feel guilty about calling off a wedding. I wish I called off my wedding to my ex-husband. The Lord gave me an out. When I was dating him, I did not feel peace, and I knew that it's getting dark in here. Hold on 1 second. I'm trying to get some more light for you guys. Okay. I'm trying to get some more light, but I just hope it's not too dark. Let me know if it gets too dark. But I was dating him, did not have peace. I felt like this was the end, like I needed to end it. And because he was showing me signs of not being flexible and being prideful. And so like I would ask him like, hey, for example, and I think I mentioned this in a previous video, I realized that he wasn't taking me out enough. like we weren't going out. He always wanted to either come over my house or go over his house. And I told him in the beginning, I was saving myself for marriage. I did not want to be in compromising situations. And so I said, hey, I feel like after like a few weeks or a month, I was like, hey, I think is there a reason why we're not going out? Like, in that you always want to come over my house, I always want to go over his. And he was like, well, I'm just a homebody. I enjoy being home and I just want some wings and sports. And I was like, okay. I said, well, in my mind, I was thinking, but you're dating someone. Like, that was just an odd response. And so when he said that, I said, well, and I told him like my desire to not want to be in the house with him. And he never really, he said he was saving himself as well, but he never on purpose covered me. Like, I could tell that he was physically attracted to me and he didn't try to on purpose. Like, he was still very touchy feely. He was still very like affectionate. And it was the very opposite of my husband. My husband now, when we were dating, he was like church hugs and to the point where it made me feel like you're not attracted to me. But that was my brokenness. That was me needing someone to be all up on me for me to feel like something. And so I asked him like, hey, maybe we should go out more. And he was like, well, if you're trying to change me, and that's what he said, like I was trying to change him and nobody's going to try to change me and I'm going to be myself regardless. And that response threw me. And I'm like, what? I said, dude, and so I broke it off. I went months without talking to him. I said, this is not going to work, but it was fun. And we went months without talking. And then all of a sudden, I went to New Jersey. My family's from New Jersey. And so I went to New Jersey for Christmas. And my cousins were there. My uncles were there. Everybody had just gotten married. Like, I had like 3 people that got married in my family. And insecurity started bubbling up. And I just felt like I was there with my daughter. I'm single. I'm still a single mom, and I just felt like, and I Snapchatted him. And, I Snapchatted him a cute picture. I knew what that was going to do. I knew that was going to open the door again, and it did. And we ended up getting married maybe a few months later. And I tell you that was the worst decision I've ever made in my life. I don't really regret anything because I know that everything is done for purpose, but that was the worst decision I made in my life because I opened a door that the Lord allowed to be closed. And that was him giving me an out, and I didn't take it. And that I'm dealing with things in my life because of that, things that probably were never supposed to happen. Things that probably I was never supposed to even experience. I experienced because I wanted to be with someone so badly that I was willing to be with someone, even though I knew that they weren't it. And my insecurity and my fear of being alone is what did that. So if you called off the wedding, good job. If you feel like that was not the person that God has for you and you called off the wedding, you were bold enough and you loved God enough and you loved yourself enough to call off that wedding, you are better than me. You're better than me because I didn't have any of that. I didn't have love. I didn't have self-esteem. I didn't have any of that. And so do not feel guilty. Move on with your life. Continue to pursue God and pursue what he has for you. And he's going to blow your mind. Okay, how would you come as much as God? I said good love. Okay. Not married. You're not married. So you were saying, so you were saying what I thought you were saying about having 3 kids and how that affects you. It doesn't affect you. God loves your children. He loves them enough to provide a man and a father or father figure for them that surpasses whatever you could ask for. I feel like I failed somehow because though I know many in unhappy marriage, I sometimes think, is that the same? Yeah, no. Mm-mm. Actually, I love how the Lord led me to your channel. It was just encouragement. That's awesome. Even this time of leaving my abusive husband. Sometimes should I have just tried harder? But I know I did not give him all. Is this the same girl wedding? I left completely broken and still feel bad for him. You have to go to God about that because there could be, well, like we talked about earlier, a soul tie. That guilt may be something that is, it could be a soul tie that is disguising itself as guilt. Because if you left somebody who you knew God did not have for you, there should be no signs of guilt. Guilt should not even be a situation for you. You shouldn't even be dealing with that. So it could be a soul tie, and it doesn't have to be a sexual soul tie. It could be a soul tie because you were committed to that person. Show us in the Bible that says one. Oh, Lisa Proctor. We're not going to judge according to your dreams and visions. Okay. Wow, we broke up too and got. Oh, Lisa Proctor, not to ignore you. I went over that earlier. And so I don't really have anything else to say about that. We broke up too and got back together. Biggest mistake. Yeah. Yes, the best version of Jessica. I answered that question earlier. That's what I was saying. Like I answered it. I actually went through the questions that I already had in the post, and I answered that question earlier. So it's in the recording. It's in the recording. So if and no one else has any more questions, I'm gonna go ahead and say good night. You have no idea how blessed I am to have you guys just um, have you guys not even just support, but just to know that what God has for me to do and what He wants to use my testimony for, that it's it's falling on good ground. And I really, really, really appreciate that. I absolutely appreciate that. And thank you so, so very much. You are welcome. You are welcome. I'm going to be more consistent with uploading as well. I don't know if you guys know, but I just moved into a new house. That's why we're kind of empty. Not super empty, but kind of empty. And 3 kids, business, everything happening. And it's just a lot. So I'm going to be more consistent. You are welcome, y'all. You're welcome. I'm going to be definitely more consistent. And my husband and I are going to record a little bit more for you guys too. Do you guys like hearing from Ralph? Because he's definitely born to be in ministry and a pastor. He's a teacher for sure. So if you guys like this video, go ahead and share it. Subscribe if you haven't already for more content like this. Thank you guys so much, so much. I really do love and appreciate you guys. And thank you for all of your support and your comments. And thank you for tuning in tonight, okay? He is a little awkward. I'm going to tell him he said that. That's funny. He is a little awkward. Awkward in like the lowest form. Like he's not like awkward, but he's okay, a little awkward. He is just so awesome though. He's so stinking awesome. Awesome. Best man. I'm telling you, I tell him every day. I tell him every day that if he wasn't my husband, he would be my best friend because he is just absolutely amazing. I can chill with him every day of my life without even being married to him. So I love him for sure. But thank you. I can sit here all day and talk to you guys, but I gotta go. I love you guys, and I know you guys have things to do tonight. God bless you, and I will see you next time. Bye. God bless you too. I'll do more lives. I will. Bye.